Shalom to Knesset member Danon.
Shalom Yoni.
So we've been accompanying your activities for a long time. We met you in the Knesset on the field, but now we're here talking to you as an author of a book. So first of all, tell us about your book.
Yoni, every time when I go to speak in front of a Jewish audience, Christian audience, lover of Israel, I get the question, why the Israeli PR is so bad? Why you're not explaining what you believe in, mainly against the two-state solution, about the rights of Israel to prevail. That is why I decided to write a book about a year ago. It took me a lot of time, and I'm very happy today to announce that this week my new book, Israel, the Will to Prevail, will be available for everybody. And in this book, as you know me, I speak very directly about what Israel should do regarding the connection with the US, regarding our neighbors in the Middle East, and also regarding a two-state solution. It is about time to say enough. It is almost 20 years we are discussing a two-state solution. I do not believe in a two-state solution. I'm putting a new paradigm in this book, telling to the people who love us, let's speak about a three-state: Israel, Jordan, and Egypt.
So regarding really the connections between Israel and America, between Washington and Jerusalem, in the beginning there was a real feeling that there's a big tension, and then we started hearing people saying that it's not really so bad. How do you analyze, how do you see the connection between Israel and America, between Obama's administration and Prime Minister Netanyahu's government?
First, let's make it clear. The relationship between Israel and the US are amazing. We have a lot of support from the American people, from the Congress, from the Senate. But there is a crisis between the White House and Jerusalem. What we saw coming from President Obama was new. There were times of tension, but the attitude that President Obama took, adapting all the demands of the Palestinians, telling us, do not build in Jerusalem, do not build in Judea and Samaria, and the way he tried to bully our Prime Minister, this was a precedent, and I'm happy to see there is a change. But when you look at the main issues regarding the conflict with the Palestinians, Obama was not a friend of Israel.
So where does this tension, where does this attitude come from? I mean, we are talking about after years of presidents who seemed much more friendlier with Israel.
After hearing President Obama's speech in Cairo, which was a nice speech, he's very charismatic, but you look at what's happening today in the Middle East, you understand there is a big gap between the speeches or the ideology of President Obama to the reality in the Middle East. He's actually trying to force his dreams into the Middle East. It doesn't work that way. Look what's happening today in Egypt, what's happening in Syria, and thanks God, Prime Minister Netanyahu was strong, and he didn't go the way Obama wanted to lead him. Because if he had done so, the chaos that we're seeing today in Egypt, you would have seen it also in Judea and Samaria today.
Now regarding this three-state solution, I mean, it needs the agreement, the cooperation of two Arab countries, some would say hostile Arab countries. How do you relate to that?
First of all, look, it's a dynamic neighborhood we have here. If I would have told you 2 years ago that President Hosni Mubarak will be in a cage in Cairo, you would tell me you are insane, and it happened. Same in Syria today. It's a very dynamic area, and we have to put on the table what is good for Israel. And not to say what is good for the Palestinians, what is good for the Egyptians. No, let's speak about what is good for Israel. And I believe this solution is good for Israel. Now let's discuss it, let's debate it, but let's put it on the table. We have tried the idea for land for peace twice. In the Oslo Accord, the second time with disengagement from Gaza, it doesn't work. We need to think about something else.
So we're talking here about the American audience, the Anglo audience. How are the responses so far?
Well, the book is not available yet. It's available in Amazon.com right now, but it will be available. I intend to translate it into Hebrew, maybe in the future to other languages. And I think I want to create a debate. I want people maybe not to agree with me, like Alan Dershowitz said, that he said we should read that book, argue with the book, but at least to know what we think here, what Israelis think to think here. And I think I represent the majority of Israelis. Sometimes you don't hear those voices. Sometimes you have people going and representing Israel and speaking about a two-state solution, about making concessions in Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem, but the people here in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, they do not believe in the idea of land for peace anymore. We tried it, it failed, we are open for new ideas today.
Now these days we're talking, of course, a lot about Iran, the nuclear threat, the question if to attack or not, Israel, the US. Do you relate to this in your book?
Absolutely, Jonathan. Major part of the book is analyzing the relationship between the decision makers in Jerusalem compared to the decision makers in Washington. And we saw in the past that we made mistakes. Take, for example, the issue of Yom Kippur War. While the Egyptians were crossing the Suez Canal in the south and actually breaking all lines of Israeli forces, somebody in Washington sent a telegram to the embassy, hold your horses, don't fight, because Kissinger will do something tomorrow. So there is a gap between what people see in Washington to what's happening here. So we made a mistake in Yom Kippur. We should have taken a preemptive attack, and we didn't do so because of the pressure coming from Washington. But if you compare it to the decision of Prime Minister Menachem Begin, when he decided to attack the reactors in Iraq in 1981, that was a very good decision. It was against the will of the US, the UN. By the way, even Shimon Peres rejected this idea, but 10 years later, everybody thanks Menachem Begin for his leadership. I think we're in the same situation today. We want to see the support coming from the US, from the UN, but if we have no other choice, we will have to deal it by ourselves.
Many people are saying if Israel attacks, if Israel acts without cooperation of the US, it'll be terrible. So what kind of responses do you think that we'll get if that happens, if Israel attacks without the cooperation of the US?
First of all, I know that the American people are behind us. I know that they support us. I know that they know that we are in the front line. The Iranians are against Israel because of the values, and we share the same values. So today the Iranians are going after the Saturday people, after the Jews who live here because we are close to them. But the next move will be against the American people who share the same values. So we have the support of the American people, and I think also the people in Washington will have no other choice but to support this decision, because this is a moral decision. It has nothing to do with strength or international relations. It has to do what is right and wrong, and we hear the hatred coming from Iran today, and we have to fight it.
Now, of course, the elections in America are coming close, and you're not taking positions.
I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a Republican. I'm a proud Israeli, and I will support everyone who will stand with Israel. But we have to say it very clear. President Obama was not a friend of Israel. You cannot ignore his actions in the last 3.5 years. And I think it is about time that we will demand to see more action coming from the White House, and not only declarations and speeches. We had enough photo ops in the White House. We don't want to see another ceremony. We need a strong America. And look what's happening today. America used to be much stronger. People were afraid. The enemies of the US were afraid from America, and its allies used to rely on America. And today it's different. The enemies are not afraid, and the allies cannot rely anymore on America. I think it should be changed, and I think Israel must do whatever is necessary to protect itself.
Knesset member Danon, author of Israel, A Will to Prevail, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Yoni.